Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Vanessa, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you
here. Yeah, great to be here.
Let's jump straight into it. What got you into the fantastic, yet sometimes a bit troublesome world of leadership development? What got you into all this?
So my background actually is as a high school teacher. So I went to university and I did a degree in English. And then my mother said to me, what are you going to do with that? Because she was a teacher and I could add on at the university I was at the time an extra year in education. So I did that. And at the time, there weren't a lot of jobs for teachers. So I taught at-risk youth. And to be honest, I had a few too many binders thrown at my head. And I thought, I don't think this job is sustainable. So I had a friend who was promoted into a role in a consulting company. And she said, they're looking to hire somebody to fill my position. I think you'd be a great fit. So I moved into adult education and I worked at a training and consulting company for 10 years. And I learned the ropes there. I learned how to write a proposal, how to ask for money, how to business develop, follow up, consult. So I learned all the nuts and bolts of consulting in that job. So it was so incredible. And then I decided after working consulting for 10 years, it's best I move in-house. So I moved in-house. I worked in a couple of different organizations running the organizational development and learning departments. And then after a couple of, many years of that, I thought, it's time to run my own business. And so with a lot of grounding and foundation, working at a consulting firm and working in-house, I was ready to fly on my own.
And what problem do you help people solve now? What is it that, people get from working with you?
So I really talk about the nuts and bolts of leadership. So here's the problem. Somebody is great at their job. Let's say they're an engineer. They go to university, they study engineering, they get a job as an engineer, and they're really excelling at their job. So someone says, hey, they tap them on the shoulder and say, now I want you to lead a team of other engineers. It's a totally different job. So the problem I solve for them is how do they become a confident and skilled leader? Because it's very different being an engineer than giving people feedback, managing their performance management cycle, coaching them. Leaders are told, oh, you need to be a good coach. What does that even mean? So that's really what I do is I do the nuts and bolts of leadership for new and emerging leaders. Even some people have been in leadership positions for decades and have never had formal training. So, and then at the more executive level, I do one-on-one coaching.
So executive level, I'm going to take that you work with executives. Who do you specifically work with? Like, do you have an industry, a niche, company size, like a specific target within the executives?
Who's the
who?
Yeah, small to medium-sized businesses, people who don't have a large human resource infrastructure in-house. So, I work with clients whose revenue is anywhere from 5 million to 350 million. And I become sort of part of the team, which is wonderful. I've been running my business since 2011, and I have clients that I've worked with for that long, and some are new. So that's typically who I support in the business.
So it's interesting because in executive leadership coaching, the executive leader that you're coaching is not always the one who saw that he or she needed coaching. So who do you need to talk to get through the door of those SMBs and work with the executive leadership team?
So that's a great question. Often people have never had a coach before and are told they have to work with me. So where would that come from? So that would come from either HR. Often it's through the human resource department. It could be the owner of the business or the partner of one of the partners of the firm, and sometimes the partner of the firm in conjunction with human resources. So what I always do is before I start coaching, I run a 30-minute get to know me call. And never, when that's a situation, I never head right into coaching. You know what? The reality is people could be nervous. Like, who is this coach? Is this punitive? And so I do that 30-minute call just to set them at ease and say, wow, you're really lucky you have an opportunity to work with me. You know, how lucky are you that your organization is supporting you? It means they really value you. So that's the positioning. So then when they start the first meeting, they're relaxed, they're comfortable, they know I'm their champion. I always tell them, I'm here to support you. The calls are confidential. And so we're going to set goals. I always set goals with clients so they know exactly what we're going to focus on in our one-on-one calls. And so they feel really comfortable showing up for the first meeting.
I like that, which is going to lead to my next question. How do you get in the door to those people? How do you market? How do you brand? How do you get people to knock on the door, Vanessa, and be like, hey, I'm interested in finding out more? How do you do that?
Marketing requires a concerted and strategic effort. So I always think about different pillars of marketing. I mean, I've been in the business a long time. I live in Toronto, so I'm known in the Toronto market. So a lot of it is referrals. I get clients who leave an organization. This happens often, and then bring me into their new organization. But I take marketing seriously. I am very active on social media. I have over 30,000 followers on Instagram. I post on LinkedIn regularly. I have a blog that I've been writing and for over 10 years, once a week. I do not miss weeks. So everything's planned in advance and I have a team now that helps me with marketing and we have a strategy. We do everything in advance. So one of the critical success factors for me is planning ahead. And really, I don't like to wing things. And I think as a business owner, if you can plan ahead and know what pillars are going to help you strategically sustain your business and move it forward, it's so key to being successful long term. So I think about the pillars of marketing. I think about social media. I think about speaking. So I do a lot of public speaking. I think about repeat business and referrals and how good it is, to build those relationships, pick up the phone, meet a client for coffee, take them out for, a drink every now and then. It's a relationship business. I mean, most businesses are. So keeping those relationships fresh and connected is so important.
Okay. I'm not talking about ourselves a lot on this show. I'm going to do it once, but to serve a purpose. This podcast recently became actually one of the first interviews since Vanessa, a top 5% podcast globally. And the way we do this and the way we help people do this is consistency, discipline. I'm saying this just to double down on what you just explained, which is you're a business owner. If you're looking to grow, right? Because I think there is meaning in not being consistent about marketing if you are at a spot that you're satisfied with and business comes to you just because you've been doing it for 30 years. Fine. If this is you, you've won. Congratulations. If you're looking to grow, marketing becomes, in 2026 and beyond, becomes key. Can you tell us a bit more about the strategy? You share how much you feel comfortable sharing, but like you have a team, you have a strategy, you do everything in advance. Can you talk to us a bit more about that? Like how consultants or head of a consulting firm listening to us right now can learn and replicate what you're doing potentially?
Absolutely. So listen, the reality is you're not going to get clients sitting at home or sitting in your home office and doing stuff on your computer. So you have to think about where do your people gather and go out there. So tonight, for example, I'm sitting on a panel for an association in the real estate industry. And I volunteered at this association for 5 years. And I want to go back to your really important comment around consistency. For 5 years, for free, when I started my business, I ran their mentorship program. I would come in, I would do 2 sessions, I would bring together mentors and mentees, and I volunteered my time. And guess what? Over time, I've got so many clients from that association, and now they pay me to do work. And I'm going tonight, I'm going to be in front of 200 leaders that they gather, and I'm going to be moderating a panel for International Women's Day. So I always think about, where are people being already gathered that are my target audience? Go there, build relationships there, and build relationships is key, right? You can't show up once. So part of it is making those connections, gathering where your clients already are, doing speaking. If it has to be for free at the beginning, do it for free. People need to see you. They need to get your, and then follow up. What are you doing to follow up? So it really is a combination. I always think of a combination of like, what am I doing in person? And honestly, what I've always done is do what I feel comfortable with. I feel comfortable writing. I mean, I was an English major in university, right? So I write a blog. I feel comfortable public speaking. So I market through public speaking. Now I feel really comfortable doing videos. I didn't at first, but I post a weekly video on Instagram. And you know what? I always like to take complexity out of things, because if something's complex, I'm not going to do it. So you know how I do my weekly video? I go like this with my phone. I stand in front of a window and I talk like casual, right? It doesn't have to be sophisticated and professional, and I don't need to hire someone to do my videos. We all have phones in our back pocket. So I think also when you consider your marketing, and I do a marketing calendar. So I have my marketing calendar set out for the year, like topics I want to focus on. And that might sound like it takes a lot of time, but honestly, if you can do things strategically and set it up in advance, I call it set it and forget it. When you have your system in place, to me, it just makes life so much easier when I get into the weeds of day-to-day work with clients.
I mean, this is so good. I want us to spend a bit of time on it. I think, because when you point out this takes time, people think or say this takes time. It's true. If you're completely disorganized and like you don't know what you're doing and you're figuring it out as you go, like sure, this is gonna take time, but you get better, you learn, and as you go, it takes a little bit less time. But the question I'd like to ask you, Vanessa, for the people listening to us is, what's the cost of not doing it? What's the cost of not investing the time in getting your consulting firm seen out there? What do you think?
No clients. Clients. Like, to me, it's obvious. It's like, you want clients, you have to get yourself out there. But I always say to people, have fun with it. Have fun with it. Go with your natural talents. Leverage your personality. Do it authentically. Like, I don't like networking events. I don't go to them. I honestly, I'm going to be really honest. I don't like this random networking event where you're only going to see people once and never see them again. Not my vibe. I love public speaking. Get me on a stage in front of people. I'm the happiest person on the planet. And I will plan and I will prepare. And that's such a big part of business, is planning and preparing. I never wing a presentation. I know my content so cold that when I get up on stage, everyone's like, oh, you're a natural speaker. No, it's because I prepared. It's because I spent so much time up front planning and preparing, so that when I get on stage, it comes across as really natural. That's a talent of mine, right? So do what feels authentic to you, but do it. Don't you think?
So I was going to say amen to that. I'm going to put one caveat though, and this is why I love this format, and I hope you won't mind me pushing back a bit, Vanessa. I think so. Making it fun is key. So people sometimes ask me, hey, what's the right frequency of publishing podcast episodes? But it can be about anything, like publishing content on LinkedIn, dancing and putting a video on TikTok, like whatever it is, writing an article. What's the right frequency? And the answer I like to give is the frequency that you will be able to sustain for a long period of time, because this is how you're going to get results. So if we take articles, for instance, it's good to write one article per week, each and every week for like 12 months. if you want to get traction, if you want to rank higher in SEO, of course, you need to do all the work. It's not just writing, right? It's researching what is it that people are looking for, what are the keywords, what's competitive, what's not, where do I want to position myself, what's the intent, blah, blah, blah. Sure. But then once you have the strategy, the execution of it is once per week. And that can be applied to many marketing channels. Having fun means that when you start not having fun anymore, which is ultimately going to happen, maybe it will take 3 months, maybe it will take 6, maybe it will take 2 years of not having fun anymore. Either you find other ways to still have fun, to get the results and to stay consistent, or you just make it part of your discipline, which is going back to the first point that we said. So I think to get started and to find a motivation, it's good to find a way to make it fun. 100%. I love to have conversations, so this is why we chose podcast, literally. But then being disciplined about it is how you're going to get results, in my humble opinion.
100%. Discipline is the key to running a successful business. Discipline is a word that I don't think people talk about enough. Like, if I commit to myself that I'm going to blog once a week, I'm going to blog once a week. So commit to yourself, commit to your business. And the other thing that I think I got a really, really great book recommendation called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Sullivan. He runs a company called Strategic Coach. And I think for a lot of business owners, we get stuck in how. And what Dan Sullivan talks about in this book is find the who, right?
Yeah.
So don't worry about the how, just find the who. And that was a game changer for me, that mindset. Because there's so many things I can't do in my business. So I'm like, well, who is the person that can do that?
Yeah. I love that. Talk to me about sales, Vanessa. How do you move from all this well thought, properly executed marketing strategy? How do you take all this to a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, an engagement? What does sales motion look like for you guys?
You know, for me, sales, because I grew up in a consulting firm, I worked there for 10 years, having a sales conversation with someone is easy because I never really look at it as sales. I look at it as, what can I do to solve your problem? What can I do to help you? And I think if you come into the conversation with that intention, ask questions, be curious. Tell me what's not working in your business. Excuse me. Tell me, what are your leaders struggling with the most right now? What are some of your gaps? What will happen if you don't close your gaps, right? Like, just have a curious conversation with them and then talk about, I'll say, let me noodle that. You know, you've given me a lot to think about. Let me take it away. Would it be okay if I take 2 or 3 days? You know, when do you need this by? I always say, when do you need a proposal by? They could say a week. Great. They could say, it's urgent. I have a board meeting tomorrow. Great. When do you need it by? Would it be okay if I take some time to just think it through? And that takes the pressure off to sell them anything in the moment. And I have off-the-shelf stuff. And I might say, okay, here, you know, I might say while they're talking, you know, I have this 6-module program that I run. I think it's a great fit for you. Would it be okay if I walk you through that program? Would that be helpful for you? So I'm always leading with curiosity and questions, and I never see it as I'm trying to sell them something. I'm passionate about the work that I do. I know I get results from my clients. And I think if you come into your sales conversation with conviction that you can help and support, you know, the conversations will do the work for you.
Talk to me about trust and urgency, Vanessa, because I suspect those are 2 things that you probably work on. Talk to me about trust and urgency in the context of B2B consulting sales.
Urgency is huge. I really have always focused on my business, and I would probably couple the word urgency with responsiveness. So one of the things that people say to me all the time is, wow, thank you for getting back to me so quickly. It's like, well, why wouldn't I? You're a potential client. So what that tells me is other people aren't. Like, you're crazy. Like, if you get an email from a potential client and you're not responding to them right away, even to say, hey, thanks for your message. I'm training until 3 p.m. I'll get back to you then, and then do. Right? So responsiveness to me is huge. People want to hear from you right away. And if they don't, they're going to find someone else who's going to be responsive. When I work with people too, I want them to be responsive. That's part of the relationship. So responsiveness is key. Trust is such a good question. There's actually an amazing book. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called The Speed of Trust by Stephen M. R. Covey. Do you know that book at
You
all?
keep on putting me on the spot, Vanessa, but no.
Oh,
but I will need the references. No, I like this, by the way. I like to be put on the spot. No, I don't know this book. Neither Sam Sullivan, I think, is Dan
Sullivan. Who not?
Dan Sullivan. But I'm taking good notes, and I will most certainly check this out.
Okay, I'm so excited you get to read this book because it's a game changer. So it's written by Stephen Covey, the son. You know if you know the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, this is his son.
Yes, I know this one. That's actually the first personal development book that I've read ever, and I had to do a presentation about it in Erasmus. So yes.
Okay, check on
nice.
Stephen Covey.
Virtual check.
Amazing. So this guy is his son who wrote The Speed of Trust. It's brilliant. It's research-based. I love books that are research-based. And he talks about the fact that trust is made up of two things, character and competence. So the character side is, am I transparent with people? Am I respectful? Am I loyal? Am I kind? All of those things. The competence piece is, am I respectful? No, that's the character part. The competence piece is, do I do what I say I'm going to do? Do I get results? Am I having crucial conversations with people? Am I practicing accountability? And then there's 3 that he has that are a combination of character and competence. One is actually listening. Like going back to sales, I'm actually listening to my clients and what they're saying. One of them is extending trust. Am I consciously extending trust to others, demonstrating character, demonstrating competence? And then the third is keeping my commitments. If you don't keep your commitments to your clients, forget about it. If you say, I'll get you that proposal by noon on Thursday, get it there by 11 on Thursday, right? So I love this book so much because it demystifies the concept of trust and breaks it down into these 13 behaviors. It's brilliant.
I know what book I'm reading next.
You'll love it.
Let me throw a little bit of a curveball question at you, Vanessa, because I've been agreeing with you too much on this episode. What's your number one challenge? What's the one nut that you're trying to crack right now that once you crack, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level? If that's even the goal, right? But what would that be for you?
I would say time and doing what I've always done and not innovating. And they kind of go together. I have a successful business. I always want more. I always want to grow. I always want to be innovating. So when you get into the weeds of running the day-to-day consulting practice, sometimes it's really hard to find the time to strategize, to innovate, and to try new things. So that's really my biggest challenge.
How are you thinking about solving those?
So what I do is, and I'm going to say try because I'm not always perfect at it. I try not to book clients on Fridays. So that Friday is my day where I can work on the business, not in the business. I am not always good because when my schedule gets busy, and literally the only day is like that Friday call, I will do it. But I really have to, again, be more accountable to myself and not book clients on Friday, because that's the day, I'm writing another book now. I do that on Fridays. My first book I wrote, it took me 8 months on Fridays. I literally sat down once a week and wrote. And 8 months later, the book was done. So that's my strategy. I'm not going to lie. I'm not always the best at it, but it does work when I do it properly.
Love that.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any suggestions on that or thoughts?
So love this. First of all, Vanessa, I wasn't asking you to put you on the spot, but more because I'm sure there are some consultants out there facing the same challenge. And I think there is nothing better than listening to your peers who have the same challenges and how they are thinking about solving it. Closing the parenthesis. My thoughts on this. How do you keep on innovating? How do you make time? At the end of the day, if you solve that question, if you answer that question, you have a growing business. So that's the problem we get rewarded for solving. Time, and that's something. So currently, I'm looking at hiring a host for the podcast. Like, we've reached a point where I need someone to help me with interviews, and that's the one thing that takes the most time. That's my best return on investment, and that's also the brand. That's something that is super hard to delegate. So the question becomes, once you've delegated all the things that were easy to delegate, what's next? So to some level, I'm struggling with that challenge as well. I'd say my process to find more time is literally listing everything that I'm doing on a daily basis, like increments of 15 minutes. What have I done? Look at the things that I can delegate the easiest. Once this is done, how do we tackle the bigger chunks? And hosting the podcast is one. Now I'm like, I've never recruited a podcast host for my own podcast before. How do I do this? Well, I'm going to interview 30 candidates, and I'm going to see which one teaches me the most. And then I'm going to do mock interviews with 5 of them, and I'm going to retain 1 or 2 and see what happens. And then I have more time. But getting more time will take me a lot of time. So it's always happening. Innovating, it's such a tough one right now because we are in a period. I mean, I'm sure every entrepreneurs have said that, like, ever, always. Like, it has never been harder to keep up with everything happening, and it accelerates again with AI. Something that I like to do is look at other industries, not like what are other people doing in my space, but what are practices that are happening in other industries that no one else does here, and what's a small sample of tests that we can do to see if this could work for us. Having the time to do that is definitely the crux. So I like your no clients call policy on Fridays. I haven't crossed that bridge yet, but who knows? I might get there at some point. Those are thoughts. As you can see, I haven't solved that for myself. So
actually, you reminded me of something really important that I do with my executives. When I coach executives one-on-one, I get them to write a list of, what are you paid to do? Right? And I think all of us, like, I'm just reminding myself, I'm going to do that for myself now. Like, what are you paid to do? What are you doing that's on your to-do list that's not aligned with what you're paid to do? And those are the tasks that you need to delegate, or, because if you're really clear on your priorities, it helps you really focus your time.
Vanessa Judelman, ladies and gentlemen. Vanessa, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
My company is called Mosaic People Development. So Google me, pop on my website. The URL is mosaicpd, is for peopledevelopment.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'd love for you to connect.
We'll put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure, is that you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn, Vanessa, out of this interview. Me, I just added you. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.